To roll into this triple header day with a game of who you got, beginning with Ole Miss and Georgia. So the last game of the day today. And let me bring Jordan Rogers in to begin the conversation. You have a take from the regular season matchup between these two teams. What will be the difference tonight?
Yeah, it's how early Georgia decides to pressure, or if they want to pressure, because this was the storyline of the first game. They brought all-out pressure early in this game, and Ole Miss made them pay. You see a 7-man pressure there, cover 0. That means one-on-one in space, and Georgia did not tackle well in this first game. This is a long touchdown down the sideline to Dejon Stribling, and then also Trinidad Chambliss' legs were an issue when Georgia decided to pressure. Here's in the red zone. Again, cover 0. 7 guys coming. It's an all-out pressure. There's going to be a free rusher. Ends up being on the left side here. Trinidad knows it. He sees it. He feels it. Steps up, makes the guy miss, and that's a touchdown run. Georgia struggled when they pressured Ole Miss early. So what did they do in the fourth quarter? They completely adjusted. They said, forget that. We're going light box, only 5 guys in the box. They end up dropping 8 on this one. We're going to make Trinidad Chambliss play quarterback against zone coverage. Look at all these eyes on Trinidad Chambliss. He struggled. He struggled against zone coverage in the fourth quarter. They only had 13 total yards. They have to remember that when Georgia plays coverage, they still have the best running back in America in Kewan Lacey in the backfield. He only had 12 touches for 31 yards in that game. Only 1 run in the fourth quarter when Georgia was making that comeback. If they do that, remember that Kewan Lacey is on their football team. Ole Miss is going to win this game. I think they will. I'm taking Ole Miss. Okay, that's another pick of an upset. He had it right last night. Josh Pate, I'll come to you on this. I feel like people, maybe because I'm so sort of knee-deep in the draft stuff, but I feel like people talk about Fernando Mendoza, they talk about Dante Moore, they talk about Ty Simpson. This is a very interesting quarterback game here with Chambliss and Gunnar Stockton. How do you see it?
Yeah, it is, because you don't have prototypical NFL size or anything like that. That's why I'm lucky, because I just get to view this from the college football side of the fence. These are 2 great college football quarterbacks, like worlds apart, skill set wise. I told you last week, Greeny, I'm going to say it again. I've said it as many times as I can say it right before kickoff. I think of all these quarterbacks left in the tournament, Trinidad Chambliss is probably the most dangerous. And a lot of it is because of the B-roll we just showed there when Jordan was talking about the first go-around. And that's why in the second go-around, it'd be a really unfair situation for Ole Miss to try and put the entirety of this game on Trinidad Chambliss' shoulders, because Kirby Smart rarely makes the same mistake twice. They adjusted in that game, so you better believe they're going to adjust in this game. And Kewan Lacey, the 12 carries for 31 yards. That's got to be a stat that's inverted. But then even if all that happens, Greeny, on the other side, Gunnar Stockton played his best game of the season when it was needed, because this game, the first go-around, Georgia needed 40, and they got 40. And he was 26 of 31 for 289 and 4 touchdowns. But kind of like Carson Beck last night, I thought some of the most important parts of Gunnar Stockton's game the first time around against Ole Miss were the 59 rushing yards, because that ultimately ended up being the difference, and it could be the difference again tonight.
And Paul is one who sort of lives in the big stories. How much of the story tonight is the coach who isn't there? And that would be Lane Kiffin, who obviously has moved on from Ole Miss to LSU.
Yeah, you can't ever predict Lane Kiffin, Greeny, but as of late last night, he was expected to be at the game sitting with the governor of Louisiana, Jeff Landry. You may remember the same governor who railed about these coaching buyouts after Brian Kelly was fired. He also played a role in bringing Kiffin here. But being around the Ole Miss people all day yesterday, they want nothing to do with Lane Kiffin. I mean, there's like a chill. They don't criticize him. They just don't want to talk about him. The players have been cool on Kiffin. There's a lot of disagreement about how he ended. And the question keeps being asked, should he have been allowed to coach? I think the fact that most of his assistants are on the Ole Miss sideline tonight or in the booth is interesting. But Ole Miss officials did not trust Lane Kiffin, and they did not want him here on the field tonight.
Okay, hard to imagine how anyone could not trust Lane Kiffin. That's a good point there. We'll leave that one there. You saw the picks up on the screen. Let me make sure I do have time for Oregon, Texas Tech, and Harry, I will start with you as we look at that game. That's the first game today of the trifecta. Oregon coming off the win in the opening round. Texas Tech had a magnificent year, particularly on defense. How do you see this game, Harry Douglas?
Yeah, I'm going with the Texas Tech Red Raiders, and it's because of their defense, who've been one of the better defenses in the country the entire season. When you look at David Bailey, Romello Height, two guys who transferred to Texas Tech, the way they're coming off the edge, David Bailey right now, he's second in college football in sacking the quarterback. But you look at all three levels, defensive line, linebacker, secondary, Texas Tech has all the components. When I look at the loss that Oregon had this season versus Indiana, I had a front row seat. I was on the sidelines watching that game. It was the physicality of Indiana that got the best of Oregon. I think the physicality of Texas Tech will get the best of Oregon in this matchup as well.
Josh.
I think that Oregon's going to win this game. It's because of one very fundamental reason. I believe the O-line RB QB combo, the run game in totality that Oregon presents, and the kind of matchup it is against Texas Tech is a different profile than anything they faced in Big 12 play this year. Everything about Texas Tech's stat profile is legit. So I'm not trying to take anything away from them. I think it's a different set of problems or issues that Oregon presents. That's why Oregon over 130-something rushing yards is actually my favorite prop of the day. If I'm right about this, it'll be because they do the same thing Miami did, and that is double up their expected rushing yardage in the game. If I'm wrong, though, it could be a very, very good day for Harry Douglas.
Jordan, I'm looking at an O under your name, and obviously the quarterback, Dante Moore, big challenge for him against a good defense.
Yeah, a challenge to not feel like you got to prove you're going to be the #1 overall quarterback in next year's NFL draft in this game. He needs to play this game like Carson Beck did last night. And to Josh's point, this is the difference. I think although Texas Tech is the #1 rush defense in the country, Oregon's going to rush for 200 yards. Here's why. Texas Tech hasn't played a physical team like this with weapons on the outside. Texas Tech loves to play one high. They actually play two high zone, one of the lowest rates in the entire country. You cannot do that against Malik Benson on the outside and Kenyon Sadiq. You can't. They're going to be forced to play more two safety, which means less guys in the box, and Oregon is going to take advantage of that in the run game. That, to me, is where this game is won or lost, and Oregon's going to get it done on the ground. I agree with Josh.
Paul, final word.
Yeah, I think Dan Lanning had to go to school on the Big Ten championship. The game that Oregon played against Indiana in Oregon earlier in the season, because the quarterback there, Dante Moore, was just under attack the entire game. I think they'll change that, they'll correct that, they'll block better, they'll run better, and I think Oregon ekes out a win here.
All right, guys, I have to let some of you go to get set for game.
Acho, what went wrong for the defending champs against this Miami team?
People talk about how pass rushers are game wreckers, and Miami has two of them, Ruben Bain and Akeem Mesidor. They started fast in Ohio State. Some of that time off could have hurt them. Ruben Bain made himself a lot of money. There were 5 sacks in that game, 11 quarterback hits, 22 quarterback pressures. Julian Sand, the quarterback for Ohio State, couldn't even breathe without somebody being right in front of him. And so the Miami defense started fast. And then, oh, by the way, the Miami running game offensively was able to control the line of scrimmage. This was a line of scrimmage game. And so, yes, the time off, I think that matters. But take all that out, and Ruben Bain, Akeem Mesidor, the entire Miami defensive line dominated.
Yeah, that Miami defense was absolutely dominant. But 25 days off for Ohio State, that couldn't have helped them at all. Acho, you stay right there. Arda, I know you got some more.
3 more CFP quarterfinals are on tap today. Ole Miss and Georgia will meet in the rematch of the Dogs' 43-35 win back in October. Gunnar Stockton threw for 4 touchdowns to lead Georgia back from a 9-point deficit entering the 4th quarter. Meanwhile, the Rose Bowl will feature the first meeting between Alabama and Indiana. The Hoosiers ended the regular season as FBS's only undefeated team, but Bama has the most wins and the best win percentage versus #1 teams all time. And the winner of that game will face the winner of today's Orange Bowl between Oregon and Texas Tech. Tech has won 12 games for the first time in program history, while Oregon seeks to tie a program record with a 13th win today. On the sidelines for today's Orange Bowls are Katie George, and she joins us live on SportsCenter right now. Katie, given this is Texas Tech's first appearance in the playoff, how have the Raiders prepared after almost a month off?
Well, you don't know what you don't know, right? Joey McGuire was very intentional about talking to some of his peers and friends who had played in quarterfinals after a month layoff to see how they structured their schedule, structured practices, and then he picked what he thought would be best for this team. It was interesting. He told us they did not do any live tackling Tackling is often coach's biggest concern coming into a game after a long period off, especially on the defensive side. But given how old, mature veteran this group is, McGuire said he has full confidence that this team can start fast. Now, the time off did allow some key players to get healthy. Quarterback Baron Morton said he was about 60 to 70% healthy in that Big 12 title game on December 6th. He now feels 95% healthy coming into today. That's crucial for Texas Tech's offense.
Yeah, they won 12 games in a season for the first time in program history. All of them they won by a large margin. On the other side, how motivated is this Oregon team after a lackluster second-half performance against JMU?
Well, there's no shortage of motivation for a Dan Lanning team. Of course, Oregon was not pleased with how they played defensively in the second half against JMU. Lanning said that publicly. He said that internally. He said they have to have a closer mentality today. He feels very confident about their response since that JMU game. And also, they've taken some issue with how much people have been talking about Texas Tech's defensive line and not their explosive offense and elite players. So there's extra motivation there, but Oregon expects this to be the best defensive front that they have faced all season. They are expecting this to be an all-out war in the trenches, Arda.
And Oregon is 3-0 all-time against Texas Tech, with their last one coming in 2023. Katie George, thank you very much.
All right, with Ohio State's loss, a new national champion.